Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming and starting our first of the spring series of the Jim Wood Speaker Series. Our guest speaker tonight is Kathy Betty, former owner and CEO of the Atlanta Dream, which is the professional female basketball team. When Kathy was the owner of the Dream, she recorded the most successful season for a rookie owner in the professional sports history in 2010 as the Dream won the Eastern Conference title and advanced to the WNBA Finals. Since acquiring the team in October 2009, Betty has re-engineered the fan base. I'm sorry, wow, got him excited. Got the fan base all up and ready and the community to support the team to a very big success. In 2011, she announced the additions of Mary Brock and Kathy Loeffler to the team's ownership group, forming the first all-female ownership group in the Atlanta pro sports. Betty has more than 25 years of business management and consultancy experience. She received her Bachelor of Science degree in Finance and Computer Science from the University of Alabama and Belmont College, and went on to work for Haynes Microsystems, was one of the first female partners with Ernst & Young, and later served as Executive Vice President and partner with Scott Madden in 1996. In 1996, she formed her own successful incubator, the Tradewind Group. Betty serves as in leadership capacity for a number of nonprofit organizations, serving on the boards of Alexander Thorpe Fund, College Institute of Technology, Georgia Institute of Technology, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Foundation, Carter Center Board of Counselors, YMCA Metropolitan Atlanta, Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce, Central Atlanta Progress, Atlanta Tip-Off Club, and the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau. So without further ado, I hope I did fairly well, but without further ado, Kathy Betty.
Thank you so much for, can everybody hear me? Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And I have to be honest, how I know about your university is from the women's basketball team. All about it, women. So I am truly honored to be here tonight, and I'm going to be able to share my passion, talk a little bit about being an entrepreneur, talk about some of the challenges and things I've faced in life, and more importantly, just have a good time. And so right off the bat, I'm going to talk about the first question that everybody asks me. Why did you buy a WNBA basketball team? And so the story kind of goes back a little bit. I lost my husband to cancer actually 5 years ago. And at that point, I was looking for a new beginning. I had, as you heard, and all of my background, I had been in the business world all my life, but I was looking for something different and a new beginning. And so somebody approached me, Bob Hope from, not the Bob Hope, but from Hope Beckwin, a PR firm that the WNBA had asked him to help find a new owner. The Atlanta Dream had been in Atlanta for 2 years, and the owner was moving to New York, and so we were going to lose the women's basketball team. And so they were out searching for an owner. Now, this was in August of 2009, and Bob Hope approached me and said, have you ever thought about buying the WNBA Atlanta Dream? And I looked at him, and I fell out of my chair laughing. I said, Bob, we're in the worst recession of my lifetime, and you want me to buy a professional sports team, and not only a professional sports team, but a women's professional sports team. I said, are you crazy? And he said, well, you ought to think about it. And you know what really happened? And it's no different in every day that you face. I began to understand what the Atlanta Dream was about. And it was the platform of the Atlanta Dream that was so intriguing to me. Because first and foremost, the Atlanta Dream was about mentoring. It was about young women mentoring to young girls. It was about seeing professional women, strong women playing sports. And I don't know if you know the statistics, but you're going to. If young girls play sports growing up, there is a 20% higher graduation rate, not only in high school, but college as well. If young girls play sports growing up, there is a 40% higher employment rate for women between 25 and 35 years old. If you go to the Fortune 500 and look at the top women executives, guess how many women played team sports growing up? 80%. It isn't a coincidence. There's a reason that women that play sports progress, and it's about the skill sets they learn. It's about learning how to be fierce competitors on the court, walk-off friends. Yeah, women, we know that, right? It's about learning to have teammates, relying on other people to achieve a goal. It's about self-confidence. It's about also playing and supporting people that maybe aren't your best friends. It's about teamwork. And most importantly, it's about leadership. And these skill sets can take young girls all the way from the classroom to the boardroom. And so as I began talking to people and really understanding the platform of the Atlanta Dream, it was like, wow, this is really something I'm very interested in. It's also a great platform for women to support women. And that was a passion of mine. When I first made partner at Ernst & Young, 20 plus years ago, it was really interesting. I was working hard, just doing all the things you do to make partner. And I was one of the first female partners at Ernst & Young. And when I made partner, I got an email from, I believe, every single female nationwide in Ernst & Young. Never occurred to me how important being a role model was. But it meant a lot to these young girls. And I thought about the Dream and the platform we had with the Dream, and I said, gosh, how fun is this? We'll have women supporting women. And then the other thing that was really interesting, it was a great way to give back to the community. It was a way to get the community involved in something that we're all love in sports. But it was also about competition and fun, and I'm not going to deny that. I loved it. It is fun to be part of a team. But when we started talking about that, all of a sudden I realized that the Dream was bigger than just basketball. And all of a sudden, I was interested. But now we had the next problem. The next problem was talking to my financial advisor. So you need to understand, no WNBA team has ever made money. And so it was a matter of, what am I going to do? So I went and talked to my financial advisor, and I said, David, I said, I think I might buy a WNBA Atlanta Dream team. He said, Kathy, he said, if you look at me and you, we know nothing about managing a sports team. And he said, and if we expand that, if we take all of your network and all of your friends and all of my network and all of my friends, he said, guess how much we know? Zero. But the strangest thing happened. And I believe in making decisions takes two things. It takes your head and your heart. And my heart was there, but my head wasn't quite there. And I was out actually with the basketball coach, the women's basketball coach of Georgia Tech, Michelle Joseph, and the associate athletic director, Teresa Switzler, and we were out talking, and I made the comment, I said, you know, I have a lot of fear because it's the worst recession, and I said, you know, it's just kind of scary, and I have fear, and I just don't know if I should do this, and And Teresa looked at me and she said, Kathy, you can live your life with faith or fear. And when she said that, guess what? I said, I have never lived my life with fear. And at that point, my head and heart came together. Now, I did have to go out and do the deal, which is a whole nother story. But you know, I bought the dream and closed October the 27th in 2009. And I can tell you, the last 2 years have been the best 2 years of my life. And nobody would understand it better than my late husband, Gary. And so, as the story continues, that's all good and sounds really good, but let me tell you what I faced. I bought the dream. I had no employees. I had no practice facility. I had no sponsors. I had a ticket season base that was pretty mad at that point. I had nobody that had ever run a sports team but me, that had never run one, and I had a game in 5 months. So what I did is, the first thing, when I went to Mr. Dave Stern's office and he said, if y'all don't know, the NBA owns the WNBA. And so I was in the first time meeting Dave Stern, and he said, what can you do? I said, please help me find a COO. I need to get someone that knows how to run a sports team. And so I was very fortunate to find Toby Wyman from the Gwinnett Braves. And so we got our staff together, we've got sponsorships lined up, and we began the season. And Georgia Tech, we practiced at Georgia Tech, we played at Phillips Arena. And let me talk just a moment, if you don't, how many of you have ever been to an Atlanta Dream game? Good, lots of people here that, lots of people. If you need an exciting afternoon, I need to tell you about the Atlanta Dream. But let me tell you about the women of the WNBA. These women, 10% of them are mothers. They're Olympians. And I'll tell you the most amazing thing about these women is they don't want to be defined as athletes. They want to be defined as who they are and what they can do. And the WNBA, we have a great product. We play unbelievable basketball. Our challenge is getting people there the first time. These women love to go out in the community. They probably do. Now understand, they play in Europe during our off season. So they're only here 6 months while we're playing. So they practice in the morning, they're out in the community in the afternoon when we don't have games. They are so not selfish. And they're just an interesting group. Like one of our players, Allie McBee, she's 6'7", she's a Duke graduate, and she's already been accepted into med school. We have 2 assistant coaches. Shaylee Lennon is assistant coach at Kansas State, and Arminty Price is assistant coach at Ole Miss. We have one that's a model. Elena was, what is it in Jezebel, 50 most beautiful women in Atlanta. We have one that Lindsay Harding, our guard, she wants to be an actress. So they're very diverse. We have 2 Brazilians. We have, it's a very international team, but at the end of the day, they really are girls. So the first time they came to my house, guess where we ended up? Now guys, you probably won't understand this, but we ended up in my closet looking at my shoes. So I went to practice the next day, and I just was coming by, and I was dressed for business, and Angel, who is our unbelievable star player, Angel came up to me and she said, how did you decide on those shoes for that outfit? But you know, that is the neat thing about being part of the ownership of the dream. But as we progressed, I learned so much. And as a businesswoman, I always thought I was a risk taker. As you can tell I've started my own company in technology. My late husband was Gary Betty, and he was CEO of Earthlink. So, and when we were at Hayes, we were always in this high-tech community. And so I always considered myself a risk taker. But what I didn't understand, and I can tell you, the further you get out of your comfort zone, the bigger the rewards. If you're happy and satisfied, you're too good. You're in your comfort zone. And I've said that before, but let me tell you, I was in it. First day, we had a conference, a news conference. I had never, ever had to go live with a news conference. I was interviewed 35 times in the first 2 weeks. Guys, I'm from Decatur, Alabama. Let me assure you, in all my business career, I had never, ever had to communicate like I did with the news media. The other thing that was amazing that I learned is asking for help. How simple does that sound? Everybody knows you need to ask for help. But it is really hard. I had to pick up the phone and call business leaders, politicians, community organizations, and say, will you meet with me? Well, they didn't even know who the dream was. But you know what was amazing? And I love Atlanta and Metro Atlanta, is we're such an incredible community. If you ask, we'll help. And I learned that about Atlanta, owning the dream. Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, he was a tremendous mentor. He didn't have to do it, but he pulled together his management team, and they spent 3 hours with me talking about professional sports. And he was a dream dad at one of our games. He brought his daughter with him, and he was getting an award one day, and they were talking about fans, and he spent 5 minutes talking about experiencing an Atlanta Dream game. And when you go to a Dream game, our fans are so excited. They're very engaged, and we're very much about the community. And probably about 6 games into my first season, the greatest compliment we got was people started coming up and saying, when I come to a Dream game, I feel like I'm part of the community. I feel like I'm in the community. And not that that was a goal or anything I had ever verbalized, but after that, I knew that was what we were trying to do with the Dream. We were trying to be part of the community. And as you go out and we began taking risk, began getting people to understand what the Dream was about, and understanding that supporting sports was helping your daughter, your granddaughter, your cousin. It was helping them to further women leadership. And I can tell you, probably before every game, I spoke 2 or 3 times to different women networks groups, because they really got behind what the Dream was about. And the thing that was, I guess, so amusing about when you walked into a Dream game is that our players, when we win, throw out shirts. They talk to our fans. Our fans feel like they can touch our players. And we had dinner before the meeting tonight, and I was talking about, you know, when I go out to the community and you talk to young girls and young boys, they don't really listen to me. But when our players sit down and talk to them about what they go through and what they've been through to get to the point that they're professional athletes, they listen. And it makes a difference. And so for me to watch our young ladies, our team and our staff grow together, and just in case you don't know, in Phillips Arena, there is only one conference championship banner. Only one. The Hawks, the Thrashers, none of them have ever won a division. And guess who owns it? The Atlanta Dream women. The incredible thing about you and where you are as students is the lessons I have learned over the last 2 years. I can tell you, and you're never too old to learn, first and foremost, but the things that I have learned is about leadership and about stepping out of your comfort zone. It's also about asking for help. And it's also about branding yourself and the product that you're trying to deliver. And I had so many great experiences from, I was out of the workforce for 6 years. My husband's parents both died of cancer too. So I had a 6-year period, and don't feel sorry for me, it was wonderful 6 years of being a caregiver. And when I walked back into the workforce, what was incredible to me was see the young people. And what I was amazed about when I was growing up and when I was making my career, work defined who I was. What I see now with this generation is they are defined by so much more than just work. And that was so refreshing to me. And for me to be able to share my experience, and for me to learn from so many energetic young people and how they can make a difference. And so as we continued on, and we made it to the championship, our first round, and unfortunately we lost 3 games. We played the best of 5 series, and we lost the first 3 games, but we never quit. And we talked about branding. What we branded ourselves as is we were never out of the game. We were no names. Seattle had all the big names on their team. My players taught me how you win as a team and how persistent and determination makes a difference. And that lesson helped me because at the end of the year, I had said from day one I was going to go out and get new investors. And so getting investors meant I had to go out and sell and ask people for money to invest into the dream. And for me, I had listened to other people ask me to invest, but this was the first time I had to step out. And Ginger Sanford, this is my assistant, Ginger. She's much more than that. But we've been together since 1989 at Ernst & Young. And so together, I would have never made it through this first year without Ginger. I guarantee you. She was incredible, but especially during this time when I had to go out and get investors, because I was pushed to my limit. I was trying to close a deal in 3 months. And everybody I met with said, Kathy, you can't do it, you can't do it. Ginger kept saying, Kathy, you'll do it. You'll do it. And so I went out and I started talking, and I'd pick up the phone, and I was embarrassed to call somebody and said, would you like to talk to me about investing into the Atlanta? I mean, it was hard. It was really difficult to say that. And you know what I found? Is people were honored. They appreciated that I was interested in them as an investor. And I remember going out and going through that process, and it was just night and day. And there would be some mornings I would meet Ginger and I would say, I can't do it. And she said, oh yeah, you can. You can do it. You can do this. And so all of a sudden, By December the 31st, I closed with 2 additional investors and owners. And not just any 2 investors and owners. Let me tell you about them. One of them, Mary Brock, her husband is CEO of Coca-Cola Enterprise, and he stepped up as a sponsor my first year. And so I forced them to come to a game. They'd never been to a Dream game, didn't care about it, but they came because he believed in what we were trying to do. Well, John came on court and we gave him a basketball. Every Coke employee started emailing him and texting him saying, thanks for supporting the Dream. He loved it, but more importantly, he loved the product. So Mary and Kelly started coming to the games. Mary and John. And so when we were in the championship game, the very last game, they didn't think they could make it to the game because he had a business meeting. Long story short, Mary texted him and said, the game doesn't start at 6, it starts at 8. He said, meet me at Phillips Arena. He got there, we were sold out. They had to scalp the ticket. And they just loved it. And Kelly and Jeff, I had met them. And Kelly and Jeff started a company, ICE, Intercontinental Exchange. And I know they tried to buy the New York Stock Exchange along with NASDAQ this year. And so I invited them to come to a game. And Kelly had actually played basketball. And so she wanted to go, and Jeff was like, no. So as they were driving down to the arena, Jeff said, Kelly, we're going to leave at halftime, so you better come up with an excuse of how we're going to get out of there at halftime. Not only did they not leave at halftime, but she's now an owner of the Dream. So I will warn you, you might come to a game, you might leave as an owner, so be careful. But, you know, as we went through that transition and we became the 3 women owners of a professional sports team, I can't tell you how much we learned as a group. And one of the things I think that symbolizes what we're all about is, and my late husband was Georgia Tech, and I'm an honorary alumni and on their boards. But when you go to Georgia Tech and you're a freshman at Georgia Tech, you walk in and they'll say, look to the right, look to the left, look in front of you, look behind you, because in 4 years only 1 or 2 of you will be here. Well, I was with Beverly Tatum, the president of Spelman College. Do you know what they say? They say, look to the right, look to the left, look in front of you and look behind you, and you make sure when you graduate that all 5 of you are there. And what a great message that is. Isn't that an incredible message? It really is. And so when I think of the Dream, I do think about what it means to this community and what it means to Atlanta, and how we can look to the right and look to the left and as a community pull it together. And the thing that I think I've learned most through that first year was that no matter what obstacles were in our way, we jumped over them. It wasn't a matter of what we were going to do. It was a matter of we were going to get through it. We had no choice. Hey, when it's your money, you figure out what you've got to do. And being persistent, not quitting, looking at everything as just an obstacle. And you know what? You fail a little bit along the way. And you know what failure is? It is just one more form of feedback. It just gives you a little bit more information to help you get around or over that hurdle. And as each day progressed, we figured out things to do. One thing is we wanted to be on television. The Dream is on Fox South. To produce a game, it cost at least $30,000 to run a truck and produce a game. We had technology, and I would love to say I did this, but of course I didn't. Toby and the staff, working with Fox, we produced our own games Fox had never done that in the history of nationwide, let somebody produce a game that was carried over Fox. And we did it for under $6,000 a game. That is what entrepreneur is all about. People think throwing money solves problems. Throwing money doesn't solve problems. What solves problems is innovation. And I think of all the entrepreneur things I've done in my life, this was the most telling one because it had so many hurdles in front of it. And what a great team we had, not only on the court, but off the court as well. And as we began our second year, we lost. We were 9-2. 9-2. I mean 2-9. Sorry. Slap me. We were 2-9. Now I was used to winning. I kind of like this winning thing, and all of a sudden we were losing. And I remember our team pulled together. And every time I think I can't learn another lesson, I get one more chance at it. And they pulled together and they figured out a way to get all the way back to the championship. And the thing that is so important about taking each day and moving forward and not moving backwards, I use a slogan, and I really believe this. Think big, because it's important. Start small and go fast. Because if you think about it, that's what you can't solve everything in one day. But if you're thinking big and you're starting small and you're moving fast, you'll get there. You'll get to that finish line. And I went and I made the decision at the end of the second year, because my passion, as you probably can tell, is not just about basketball. It's also about women and women leadership. And I talk a lot about that in the fact that if you look at statistics, every study you see, whether it's women on boards, the more women you have on the boards of companies, the higher financial results they have. If you look at women leadership in the Fortune 500 companies, and you take the top 25 firms that have the most women leaders, guess what they finish? They finish 60% higher return on capital, return on sales, and profitability. And it's not just about women, it's about diversity. It's about bringing together people of different minds. And so as I began going through and working with the Dream and speaking and learning about all the issues that we face as a society, I really want to step to a different platform. And believe me, that wasn't planned. I had no idea that I would want to do that. But to me, it became bigger than basketball. And oh, by the way, Kelly and Mary's got the Dream under control. We still have women owners, and we're still going to win, and I'm still going to be the #1 fan, screaming and hollering the whole game. But I'm also going to get broader and really work with young people and women in leadership and try, because I really believe if we're going to solve the problems of this world, we've got to solve it with men and women standing together and leading. And so, in closing, I will tell you one thing that took me many years to learn, but if I can leave you with one thing, it's about communication. And I had this conversation with my team, and it's hard to do, but if you'll take your value system and you think about what's important, it's about communication and how you talk to other people. And if you can communicate directly, if you can communicate honestly, and if you can communicate with empathy, then you can make a difference in whatever issues you're trying to resolve. Because you think about it, empathy is about walking in somebody else's shoes. And so many times we just walk in our own shoes And when we're communicating, that comes across. And so tonight I leave you with two challenges. One, coming to a dream game. The other challenge is leadership is critical. It's critical in everything you do and in our world. And so think about what you're doing in school and what difference it can make to other people. And most important, I want to open this up for any kind of questions that you have. And I'll go back in my career, I'll go forward. We'll talk basketball, we'll talk hoops, we'll talk the NBA, whatever you want to. But I would love to hear your perspective and ask questions.
When did you know when Harvard said to be an entrepreneur? What age were you when you knew for sure you want to be an entrepreneur?
You know what was interesting about me? Boundaries were always an issue. I think I always looked at things from a perspective of how can you do it differently. I embrace change. I love change. I'm not happy unless change is occurring. And so when I first started working, I always wanted to do things differently. And I knew from that point forward that I really wanted to start and create. And y'all are way too young to even know, but Hayes microcomputer was the first modem, and it was how the mainframe talked to a computer or two computers. It was about a handshake. Well, that didn't exist back then. And Dennis Hayes started a company in Atlanta called Hayes Microcomputer Products. And I was part of that team. And with that team, I knew my dad, I could never, ever go back to a big corporation. So for me, I'm not happy unless I'm making a difference and changing. I will do that.
My question is what type of mentoring does the team do for the community, and when does the season start for the line of journey?
All right, mentoring. We are associated with Girls on the Run, Cool Girls, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, boys clubs, and so they are out with young girls all the time. And part of the program is we have these things called Take the Show on the Road, where our players actually go practice at a high school. And then they meet and greet and talk to the students. And so that's another great program that we do to get our young ladies in the schools. Dream schedule. We start in May and go through September. We have the Olympics this year. So we'll take a break in the middle because several of the players play for the Olympic. Angel will be on the Olympic team. And there might be a couple of more. So all the WNBA, we take a 4-week breakage, and so we'll finish later this year. But we play at Phillips Arena, and we have tickets as low as $10. So you can be on front row for $45, $55, Ginger? 100. Oh, 100. I leave and they up the prices. Yeah. What can I say? Other questions?
I too believe in making a difference in the community, and I'm hoping one day that I'll be able to open or create or build a halfway home for battered women and children. How can I go about looking how to find investors and find a team as you had to build and find a team to do something in that magnitude?
Her question is she too wants to give back to the community, and she wants to create a home for battered women and their children. And she said, how do you go about getting investors? How do you go about doing that. First thing you got to do is get your story together. You've got to have a way to communicate what it is you're envisioning and results. What do you expect to get? Are you just bringing families in, or are you going to try to bring these families in and create something that's sustainable that they can go out and be productive? So you've got to get your story together. And the hardest part is you got to go ask. You can look in the phone book, you can go to other nonprofits. Start with your network. Networking is so important. Guys, form is one thing, substance is another. We always get confused. We think if we have substance, we don't need form. That is so wrong. You've got to have form and substance. And so part of being successful is understanding presenting yourself is very, very important. And asking people and using your network. Sitting down and working 100 hours doesn't create a network. Guess what? You're going to get stuck if you don't have that network. Whether it's your students, whether it's faculties, whether it's business, you need that network. And one person will lead you to the next person that will lead you to the next person.
Thank you.
Other questions?
What's the name of the championship trophy?
The championship trophy for the WNBA? There isn't a name. Great idea for sponsorship. Great idea. See, that's what I'm talking about. You get in a room, we need a name for our trophy by a great sponsor that'll give us a lot of money. Thank you. His question was, what's the name of our trophy? We don't have a name. So that's what I love talking, because you always get so many unbelievable ideas.
Will they get a cut of it if it don't work?
What?
Will they get a cut of it if it works?
He's trying to make you some money over here. He wants to know if he can get a cut of this if it works. Go for it. Yeah, I would say, hey, it was my idea. Yes?
I have two questions. Where can we find information on the mentoring programs that you do have that for some of us that we wanted to get involved in, or some of the high schools that they go to play, where is that information available to the public?
Yes, www.atlantadream.com. .net? .net. See, this is why I can't do anything. Yes, your second question. The first question was, if you want to know what mentoring programs we participate in or what high schools we're going to be at, where can you get that information? We have an incredible website, which is www.atlantadream.net. And not only can you find out all about Atlanta Dream, but you can also find out about our sponsors. And you can also see all the programs that we have going on. And you can buy tickets as well.
And I was going to ask, do you have the Star Spangled Banner, is that sang at the beginning of every game? And how do you need someone to do that?
Can you sing?
Yes, I can.
Give Ginger your card. Yeah, we do. We have someone sing every game. And we do a lot of things throughout the game. We have a patient from Children's Healthcare of Atlanta that we honor at every game. And believe me, these kids are fighting for their lives. And our fans give them a standing ovation. By the way, we honored your basketball team for winning the national championship. And Ginger can tell you, the crowd went wild, didn't they? They were so excited. That is such a great thing for y'all. So, yes. Question?
What skills do you think that our students should be developing during their college years? I mean, in terms of coursework, extracurricular activities. A lot of our students are also working, some of them a lot of hours.
Yeah, no, that part is tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
It costs a lot to get through school these days. You know, if you are a student, I think volunteering in the community is so important. And I know that is time consuming, but even if you just do 2 hours once a month, you'll connect differently than you would without that. Now, I'm a little prejudiced because, believe it or not, I'm an accountant. But the thing that I think is important about, it's not about the knowledge in the book, it's about understanding the business. It's about understanding who you're communicating with and sharing knowledge. Listening, eye-to-eye contact, those things are so critical when you're out and you're beginning in the workforce. Education, I mean, just sitting here tonight talking to the professors and what they do, y'all have so much more than we had. It is amazing the tools with technology that students have today. But those tools will not get you a job. It's you knowing who you are, your personality, and your ability to communicate that will get you a job. Those tools are given now. And so as I look at embracing your knowledge and how it works, ask questions. Don't just settle with a theory. Talk about how that theory is applied. So, you know, again, form and substance, it takes both. And don't forget that.
You mentioned communication skills. I think they are very important, and oral and written.
Absolutely. And we're losing some of that written skills. Even I. Initials and everything else.
You said you started off as an accountant. How did you know when it was time to branch off into different fields, or that was enough energy put into that particular area? How do you know when it was time to change?
Do you know what? Everybody's different. Some people plan their career and some people cringe when I say this. And her question is, how do you know when you branch out? How do you know if you start out as an accountant, what your next move is? When are you ready to take on? I will tell you, I never planned a career change. But I knew when I was ready. And I wish I was one of those that planned out. I mean, if somebody had told me I was going to buy a team 2 months before I bought it, I would have laughed. And the same thing as I moved. I went in, when I went to Ernst & Young, I came out of industry from Hayes. And I remember the partner in charge asked me the question. He said, why do you want to be a partner in this firm? I didn't even know what a partner meant. I looked at him and I said, I want to be a CEO. So, you know, I think it's interesting how those things evolve. And I wish I could tell, because so many people plan. I evolve. And I think some of it is because I'm intuitive. I listen to my heart and mind. And when it works, I go for it. So many people, I think, if they would, they're afraid to fail. And that's what you've got to get over in changing and directing your career. For me, it wasn't about planning. It was about not fear of failure.
I have a two-part question. The first part is, you mentioned risk. What was your besides buying a sports team in a recession, what were some of the other risks that you encountered? And you said the more you risk, the more reward you were given. What were those rewards for those big risks that you took?
Well, you know, I started a company, Tradewind Group, and I was doing consulting work with Ernst & Young, and I started my own company. And I went out and I formed a company to take, and now everybody's heard of this, but back then they didn't do it. I did half stock for half stock, half fees, which meant my revenue stream was cut in half. So, but what happened was during the dot-com, the stock was booming. And so that was a big risk to take, to walk away from fees. But the result of that is you had the value of stock. And so if you didn't wait and sell it to after the boom, you made a lot of money off of it. And I'll be honest, some of it I sold before and some of it I lost because when the dot-com busted, so many firms the stock price went down. So that, that was one. But early on, the risk I took was change. It was about looking at what I did and trying to make it different, make it better. And I think that was the risk I was taking early in my career, is not accepting everything I heard and saw as absolute. Now, I was always respectful. My mother taught me that. But I also took chances.
The second portion of the question is rejection. Has there been a situation where you've been rejected or you've been trying to do something and it discouraged you from taking a course or of avenue and you had to deter yourself and go a different way to come about with the same results that you planned?
Oh, absolutely. Life isn't easy. And I can tell you, when I made partner at Ernst & Young, the year before I made partner, I was number 5 in sales nationwide, and I didn't make partner. And I had worked so long, so hard, around the clock, and you know what I found out? I learned something about myself. The reason I didn't make partner is the partners in Atlanta didn't even put me outside, put me up. I spent all my time growing business, working with all the partners nationwide, but I didn't spend time fostering the partners within my own firm. Next year, I spent more time with the partners in the firm. So yeah, and I was just devastated. I went home and cried and cried and cried. I was just devastated. So, and there's many more examples like that.
Well, I think we'll take one more, right? The gentleman had a question?
Yeah, it was the same question.
Well, I know it's running late, but how about another round of applause for our speaker? Thank you. Kat, I just want to let you know, this was one of the most inspiring, engaging, right? You all agree?
Oh, thank you.
I've been at Clayton State for almost 2 years, and this is by far the most moving experience I think our students would have had. And just on behalf of our faculty, all of these students here, and the entire community, we just want to thank you for taking time out to share with us your experiences, both on and off the court, obviously, but more importantly, life experiences. So thank you, Kathy, very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'm going to cry. Hey, it's not one. It's got my name on it. Thank y'all for having me. I loved it.
Yeah, appreciate it.